Good morning. We're live with Comics and Coffee with Cliff, and we got Parker Newman. We'll be back after this message. I just need people to be prepared for 10 a.m. hijinks.
I was about to say I didn't know what I got myself into when I saw that graphic.
Yeah. Well, we're still in the first. We're only in 28 seconds, so I can't get. I got at the 7-minute mark. Then I don't violate the YouTube algorithm. So I guess we'll start by saying hi to the chat really quick. Good morning, John. Hello. John's Concert Kids, thank you. Thank you for your love and support, my friend. Dan, thank you as well. He's at work. And let's effing go. Circumstances. Marcus already loves you. Marcus is back to your book and everything.
Yeah. Marcus is awesome. Yeah. He actually got me connected with another sort of comic book influencer, Katie. And through her,
you mean K-pop? Oh my God.
Yeah,
K-pop junkie. Yeah. Dude, let me tell you. Y'all are late to that party. We all know. I was with Eric Von Strader or whatever, a few months ago. He goes, yeah, I'm going to be on the show, kicking it. I'm kicking it with K-pop? You're going to be on with Katie? Katie's my girl. And he's like, okay. And then I'm sitting there, I'm with James Whiting and all these other people. I'm like, y'all don't know what you're missing. I was like, you need to connect with Katie. I was like, you get with her. And they're like, okay, Cliff, okay.
Yeah, no, it was... Oh my gosh. No, Kate was awesome. She I because of all the craziness with Diamond, I lost my initial publisher, Blood Moon. Blood Moon went under. And then I just was at a loss. I was like, do you know who I could possibly I just asked her on Instagram.
And she was ready.
And I had said, do you recommend any other publishers for me to possibly reach out to? And at the top was Wiseacre Comics. I reached out to Frederick Littles from Wiseacre, and here I am. So, yeah, it all worked out.
So I had a lot of rejections for a proposal of mine. And Katie's like, here's a bunch of queer-friendly publishers. Yeah. And I'm like, ooh. So now I have my list for when I'm fully ready. John of John's Comics for Kids read my last version of it, so I'm looking forward to it. MJ Comics, fresh from the UK. Thank you. I love MJ. JSS Brooklyn, good morning. I hope I'm not missing everybody. Christina Payne, good morning. Christina, you're a champion. Anyone interested in the Comic Book Community Awards, go pledge. Go pledge your support for Christina Payne for Comic Book Community Builder. As you should. And go give JSS some love for the Blue Wrench, Award. Should you choose? I'm not forcing y'all to do anything. I'm just suggesting. It's just a suggestion. I like suggesting most interactive hosts. It's a suggestion. All right. Kenneth Berg, good morning. James Abel, thank you, my friend. Good morning. All right. I even got my legendary Clifford Cup ready. I'm good.
I like James Abel's. His profile picture is I love that. Okay, I think that's awesome.
Nope, that's JSS. Hold on. There we go.
Yeah, James Abel, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is that from something of the Creek or?
I think, is that from, oh my gosh. It looked like a Phineas and Ferb character, but I don't think it is. Just the art style.
I think it's from that Cartoon Network show. James, you're going to have to tell me because I'm at a loss. Christina, hot and fast with the links. Oh my God, MJ, you voted for me. Thank you. I appreciate you. And that's a big compliment from the master, from the master of the Oprah moment. If you're ever on MJ's show or you're ever going to be on MJ's show, he'll always ask you a couple of deep questions, and you can bet your bottom dollar that it is going to appear as a short with the somber music, and it's like, it's like this community really saved my life back in 2021 during COVID. And it just means so much to me. And I remember laying in bed and I had an IV drip in each arm. And there I was. And I was watching people like you, MJ, and Lunch Money Comics just shopping for comics and eating a bowl of cereal. And it saved my life. And like that, and like that's it. Like that, and then it's like boom, tearjerker. It's like the whole shebang. The whole shebang. I love it. I love it. I love it. Phil, you're welcome. I couldn't let you go another week without making you frozen pizza. Oh my God. All right. So obviously there may be some people in the chat who does not know Parker. So today I'm thrilled to introduce Parker Newman, the creator and writer behind City of Demons, a gripping 12-issue noir comic series set in 1920s Los Angeles. Parker combines deep historical research with emotional storytelling, exploring themes of race, gender, and corruption through the lens of Black detectives and forgotten voices of early Hollywood. He's collaborating with amazing artists, Ezeh Kingsley and Nikki Powers. I hope I didn't butcher their names. Welcome, Parker. How are you this morning?
Hey, I'm great, Cliff. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And last minute, too. Last minute, and I'm so happy. Normally, if I give people last minute, they're like, well, dude, I can't. I'm like, let's do 10 a.m. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you for working that into your schedule because you offered me, and it was like typically for a podcast or any sort of like published interview, it's been like a month out or weeks out for planning. And then you're like, 10 a.m. I was like, check my schedule. Yeah, sure. And nothing. Let's do it.
Listen, cancellations are the most magical of things. So City of Demons unfolds in a Prohibition-era LA, weaving a haunting noir mystery about exploitation and the search for justice. At its core are Black detectives confronting both mobsters and systemic oppression. This series blends shadowy visuals, fluid paneling, and emotionally resonant dialogue. Parker's meticulous research into the era and its focus on identity give this story unique depth. If you're a fan of gritty noir with social resonance, this series is a must-read. And of course, Chris in the chat. And I'm going to share my screen so we can get into this a bit more. So here's the Zoop page for your campaign. Right? We're at 707 out of 2,000 people. We can do it. We can do it. 26 days left. So my first question for you, where did the seed for City of Demons come from for you? Like, where was your inspiration? An image, a story, a piece of history, more than one thing that like planted the idea in your mind?
Right. So essentially, for me, it was, I'm a big history buff. I love that. I just love anything to do with history. The history of Hollywood, as far back as the 1920s, like the old, like, silent movie era, is, I think, really fascinating. The way that Hollywood and LA became the epicenter of American pop culture is really fascinating. All the scandals woven into that is really interesting. So I already had a base sort of understanding and knowledge of that. But what really made me think, okay, here's a story I can bring to this that can really be new, was the lead character, Detective Short, which I even have a physical copy here. And the reason why is because for me, any story comes based off a character idea or a character concept. So for me, they have an idea of like a Black police officer in 1920s LA, and that was even derived from history because LA had their first Black officer in I believe it was 1918, and they had, I think by 1924 there was 4 Black police officers, and so that was just a weird little part of American history I wanted to put in to the story, and then from that little kernel I just kind of went off and did my own thing. But yeah, so this had started off actually as a screenplay. for like a pilot of a hour-long television series, and that I read all the way back in college about 3 years ago. And I really liked the story, and it just stayed with me. And I always loved comics, and so I adapted the first half of that sort of pilot script, cut down a lot of things and everything, but it essentially adapted the first half into the first issue. And yeah, I think it's turned out really well. I think it speaks almost a lot more about Hollywood now versus even back then, because a lot of the sort of like scandals we're familiar with, like a lot of the stuff with like Harvey Weinstein, I think was the first one, more so recently, to like, break everything out. A lot of that sort of behavior, like the casting couch, sort of stories that you find, it's that have been with Hollywood like since forever, since silent movie era, since even before Hollywood became Hollywood. And that's really what this story is, and the mystery essentially explores is Hollywood becoming, or like it was called Hollywood Land then, but Hollywood becoming Hollywood. And yeah, I think people really enjoy it.
Well, it sounds very enjoyable, and like you hit the right track. I like those old Hollywood stories as well. There's always so much going on. Oh no, so and so's pregnant. What are we gonna do? Right. And like I love that. Rob gifting 5 Cliff on Comic memberships. Congratulations to Gus Slots, Easy Money, Pitima, Chuckle Valdez, Ryan Riley, Kyle Rayner Reviews Comics. Woo! Because I was live with him last night. And that, congratulations to you 5. And this is a thank you for Rob. As soon as I can actually find what I'm doing with my media, of course. I gave Rob the triple thank you. So, good morning, Brian LCS. Good morning, Trev. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all so much. I really appreciate you all being here. All right. So, there we go. Back to this tab. So let's look at this Kickstarter. You told me if I scroll to the bottom,
should have, if you keep on scrolling down, you should have, and then previews, and then under that section, you'll have like, essentially screen grabs.
All right. Yeah. Let's watch. It's not going to get me in trouble. You used all public domain stuff, right?
Correct. Yeah.
All right, good. Great stuff. Oh, already. I love this preview. We're right into a World War I flashback.
Yep. This could be spoilers, but I mean that's literally the first page of the first issue, and so yeah, our main character, Detective Short, is a World War I veteran, and so a big part of the story is that for all the characters, I went into this whole comic with the philosophy of characters before everything, characters before plot, characters before sort of specific moments of conflict, but like continually putting my characters in moments to where you could really understand their psychology, you could really understand their motives. And so, for instance, like the overall theme of the comic is essentially like grief and sort of like dealing with that. And some people, really cope with it and learn to deal with it in, like, I guess, more constructive ways. And other people like don't, without giving too much away. But so each character, and there's essentially 4 main characters of the story. So there's Harry Boyle, who's the head of one of LA's crime families that mostly have influence with the police and local businesses. Then you have Marcus Sullivan, who's the newly appointed head of the Sullivan crime family, and they're essentially the mob family that brought in like a lot of Hollywood, a lot of the studio system into LA. And then you have, of course, Detective Short, and who's a World War One veteran who's brought into this whole larger mystery when there's serial killer targeting head mafioso officials. And then you have Private Detective Lawrence Kay, who has his own like really very, I think, really intriguing past that you learn about more, specifically in issue 4. But it's taken the psychology of all these characters, putting them together in like a pressure cooker, where there's nothing but conflict, nothing but changing dynamics, and seeing what happens. Because I love drama, and so if you can always up the ante more and more and more as the series goes on, that's what keeps me reading. Like any issue or any long-going series, you want to keep that pressure cooker going issue to issue, because that's what keeps me invested. And as long as the characters are interesting enough, as long as you connect to the characters, I think that's what really sells something. And I'm really proud of all the character work here. Like, again, the art, I think, really helps sell that point. There's our artist, Kingsley, is amazing. Like, it's all his faces are super expressive. The line work is really clean. His line effects, you see a little bit of it here. And I'm just going to say his artwork, it already is really, really strong in the first issue. His artwork gets even better as the series goes on. Like, I think I recognized it by issue. So we've actually made or started the work on like issue like 7. And so it and when I saw he would email me just the early inks, I was like, geez, dude, like this is incredible. Like I would give him in a script, be like, hey, have a high angle shot of this, and then this line effect will be here. And he would do that and then add in his own just flair, I guess. And it was great. It was like, oh, keep doing that. That's even better than what I could have imagined. So yeah.
That's really the beauty when you're paired up with a talented artist, right? Where it's like that imagination and the collaboration, right? Like they could surprise you and do more, or just working with somebody who like will help you make your vision come true, where you line up together. As I'm trying to look, don't worry, we talk over each other all the time here in the comic book community. No, but like as I like trying to find artists to work with, like I need somebody who, I'm comfortable with like them doing stuff, but also like if I want a certain thing, then I want them to be able to deliver that certain thing as well.
Right. And so for this, it was all bunched in the script. I don't know if a lot of other comic book scripts have this. I've never seen it, but like it is a bunch of like reference photos. So again, in my sort of 9 to 5, I work in marketing for a tech company, and I do like commercial videography. And so I come from like a video film background, and so I'll use in a script, it's panel by panel, and I'll say, hey, in this panel, sort of emulate this shot from this movie or this line effect from this, and many times, because it's a period piece, like for instance, I'll use like anything. I think it was like so and so gets on the phone or whatever. It's like I'll just show like almost, I feel bad, but I almost barrage him with like a million reference photos of like items and like the clothing from that time period. So there's in a later issue, there's a masquerade ball, and I'll show him photos from real LA masquerade balls from that time period, what the mask design was like, the clothing specifically for women, how that has evolved over time. But that's, again, as a history nerd, I really love this stuff. The history of LA has a lot of really dark corners that I was able to creatively play with and explore. And I think, for instance, Cliff, I think you'll really love this. I think it's just keeps going and going, and the mystery only gets more complicated as story goes along, because you're not so much looking at who done it. Like initially you are, but like as it progresses, it becomes more of a mystery about the motive. Like, why is this person doing this? Who's really orchestrating this? And through the motive, you'll find the mastermind or the killer. So, and that's something where I think is really fun. Like everyone I talk to who's gotten a glimpse of the first few issues, only one person has been able to identify the killer. And this is probably like 30 or some people. So only one person has been able to, but the motive for it was wrong. So I still really like playing around with that, but hopefully if you get a chance to read all of it, like I think we're finishing up issue 7. So hopefully when you get a chance to read all of it, you're still guessing too, is my hope. But yeah.
Listen, I'm all about guessing, and the one that really had me hanging on the edge of my seat recently was the Deviant, right?
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And the Deviant did, it did the very non-traditional thing. We don't meet everyone in the first arc. We only meet the potential killer once in the story before the revelations start coming, right?
Yeah.
And then we realize how this person is a dark mirror to our protagonist. But again, sometimes going against that grain is what's interesting. But before we get to my next question, JSS, I want to say thank you. It will certainly go to the coffee. The coffee fund is always necessary. And C-Bizzle, for the cream in my coffee, I appreciate you. Let's get you a little Sydney Sweeney action. I got to work on more thank yous. Especially because all the gratuitous ones that I care about are really more for me and Lady Fantastic and Madam, and that's pretty much it. Let me just check in on the chat. Lady F is here. Welcome, Dr. Doom's fan club. Good morning. All right, who am I missing? Am I missing anybody? We see Well War, Lady F, Dan is. All right, we're good. I think we're good. Good. It's a lot of people saying I have a body person. I wish I had a few of those, Phil. I got so many things that need to be worked on. At work, the number one joke I have, they're always like, what do you need? What can we do? What about this? What about that? Work concerns, safety concerns, health concerns. And I'm like, when are we getting a masseuse? I want a masseuse in here. Friday afternoon when the clients leave, we all get a massage. I want a masseuse. That's what I want. Oh my God. And everyone just looks at me and I'm like, you're supposed to be caring about the self-care of your employees. And yet I don't see anyone getting us a masseuse. Yes, workplace massage.
Yeah, they should make that mandatory.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt from Heroes for Hire, good morning. All right. So, and I by the way, I love how this book is setting up. And like you said, the lines are very clean, and art is very important. If I find the art too distracting, I am gonna bail on a book.
Well, that's the weird thing, and I like this is just the harsh reality of like comic book creation. It's like it was a whole like discussion like, oh, which more important in a comic book, the writing or the art or whatever, and they're both obviously super important. But and I don't agree with this guy a lot on many things, but Tom McFarlane actually made a good point. He said, I can sell a book with great art and terrible writing, but I can't sell a book with great writing and terrible art. I was like, correct. That's actually very true. So
it is extremely true. And it's always funny because through my life, as I've met creators, like creators who are more self-aware are always like, I feel bad that the artists don't get the acknowledgement that they deserve. And I always found it so weird because I grew up in the 90s and the 90s was all about artists getting their acknowledgement. And then that just doesn't seem to have continually transitioned. It's weird to me. But then again, I'm getting old, so I have to face facts.
It's interesting because like when you look at the trajectory of like what you mentioned from the 90s to now, like the 90s, I mean, you had like, I mean, obviously you think of the 90s, think Image, but it's like those guys were like superstars within the comic book community and even got like mainstream. And but now like, to be honest with you, I think we have even better artists now than ever before. And so it's odd to me that they're not getting the same recognition. Like we have amazing artists like all the time. I think one of my favorite artists still is like Tony S. Daniel, and it drives me crazy he's not mentioned in the same category as like a Jim Lee. I'm like, no, I think I actually like his style better. He's really good. Um, but
There,
yeah, it's
I mean, I have all sorts of various modern loves for different
yeah,
reasons. I love Luciano Vecchio, and he's definitely on the more
mhm,
newer, right? I love Phil Jimenez, and and like the last night I was talking
Villainous,
about like
yeah,
who can do George Perez stuff, right? Like who can do those splash pages because there's almost no one left that can do those
right.
splash pages, and I'm like Phil can do those splash pages. Phil can give you Greek architecture for days. I'm like he can run with that inspiration. And one time I was actually with Phil and George and Jose Garcia Lopez. It was the year before Terrificon became Terrificon, or 2 years before, but it was in the ice rink in Connecticut. And George said something about how he loved Phil's final issue of Wonder Woman, like bringing the Amazons to a place that he had always hoped for, right? And I was like, this is so beautiful. Like, I don't even know what's happening. All right, but enough about me. This is about you. Um, so you did extensive research into 1920s Hollywood and early Black law enforcement. What were your most surprising discoveries?
So my most surprising discoveries, well, to be honest with you, that there was even a black officer as early as like 1918. That was like shocking to me. And to be completely honest, the historically LAPD is not known to be super great when it comes to race relations. So that was really shocking. Um, but what was surprising to me was the fact that, like, I guess I kind of assumed that a lot of the sort of predatory sexual behavior that was going on in Hollywood that we obviously know a lot more about now. I assumed that was going on to some degree, back then, but I did not know to what degree. And to find out they've been rampant and that a lot of these girls, or sorry, a lot of these women had really forced into like what have been back then like a lot of like human trafficking situations, essentially between studio to studio, boss to boss, was like shocking. And then once you like discover a lot of that, you just want to keep on learning about where's the rabbit hole end essentially. And so it was fascinating to learn about that, to learn about sort of Hollywood trying to work its way up, like how like because that was for me, it was like, so how did Hollywood start? Because movie theaters, especially in the 20s, were not everywhere.
Right.
And how did it go from there to just upping it up, going to up and up and up in popularity and social and pop culture prevalence. And then it was fascinating to learn about it. It was, and so I was like, this is the perfect setting. This is the perfect place to put all these four psychologically complex characters in and see, okay, you have this character, put him in this scenario. How does this person react to what goes on around them? And so I just thought it was fascinating. I thought if you could add a murder mystery element to it, I thought it was the perfect setting because it's just like, to be honest, like stylistically, it has that kind of gothic look, and the 1920s are just really awesome with just how everything looks. And so I was like, oh, this would be perfect for that. And then through a murder mystery, you kind of examine all that. And I think which is a really cool and unique way to really do that. And it's something that, I think people eh, like I feel like a lot of independent creators think this way, but it really is the thing where it's like, for me, it's like I know this is good. Like I really do feel like it's good, and it's like, and if people just give it a chance, I think they'll really dig it. Like I remember when I was first searching for a publisher, um, I got a few rejection letters back, and And it almost made me, I almost felt like I was being gaslit for a little bit because I'm like, is this actually not that good? Like, I was like, maybe I'm just too close to this to have an opinion. And
that's how I ended up sending my script to 6 different people. I'm like, you need to read it. You need to read it. You need to. And one of them, I was telling him, I'm like, it has been 4 weeks. I am still waiting for your thoughts. And he's like, but I want to give you a thoughtful thing. I'm like, I don't care how thoughtful. I need you to read it. And then, of
course, no, yes or yeah.
No, I got a 5-page report, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
You know, but at least,
yeah,
because I don't need to hear that it's perfect, but I need to hear that it's working for you. Right.
Yeah.
Because if I don't ever try to do it, it's never going to come out.
Right.
So I don't mind if it comes out. I want it to come out and be the best that I know it could have done.
Right.
Right. And if I could do better later or get better, great. But if I don't ever do the first one and feel good about the first one, you know, it's never going to happen. Again, I keep, you know, I really am trying to turn it to Oprah. I keep making it about me. And I'm like, it's because I'm too close to it. I'm too close to the situation. I want to be in it. I'm like, I know when I'm shopping around for artists. Like,
yeah, it was one of those situations. So I don't know if you ever got this, but during that whole first round of looking for a publisher, I got a rejection letter from one, and I was frustrated, to be honest with you. And so I just emailed back. I said, which I never done this. I don't know if I recommend anyone to do this, but I emailed back and I said, hey, what do you think about, like, hey, it's just like, why? Because typically for a comic book submission, like I'm sure you've experienced, you have to submit a marketing proposal, cover letter of you and your team, story outline, story arc, like story synopsis, and then like what was and then like the first 10 pages of like issue 1.
Yeah, no, this was worse because
it was worse.
Yeah, I was pitching. I had the whole breakdown, but I'm pitching that I want one of your teams, right? Yeah. So I'm like, this is what I've got going on. I want one of your teams to work on it. So it was harder, but at least they were much more, I don't know, maybe because of the whole gay thing, they were much more clear with me that they did not want to deal with such adult material, right? Because like I'm like, but it doesn't have to be all smut. I'm not trying to push pure smut here.
Yeah,
I'm trying to push a great story that has some smut in it. Like, come on, meet me somewhere. But usually people are like, it sounds great. Sounds like you're having it's a wonderful pitch. It's a great idea. We're just not the publisher for you, right? And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's oh my gosh. It was, well, like that publisher, so I was talking about was he gave me, so I asked like, what's wrong with this? And he said, he wrote back, I'll never forget this. He's like, oh, nothing's wrong with it. He's like, I actually really enjoyed it. But, and this was his caveat, apparently, at least for him, was, well, it's your first one. And I was like, I was like, and for me, it was like, so, like, it was like for me, I'm 25 now, but then I was 24. I was like, so I'm young. And so you obviously think it's good. So don't you, like, if you had a vision, don't you want to start like a professional relationship early on, like invest in that? But
no, because in their eyes, they need to see that you have a footing.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing. And this is really hard, right? Because I'm at work and I'm in the middle of a generational gap at work. And it's really hard and awkward sometimes where I'm playing middleman in a team. And I'm actually in 2 teams that are supposed to act as one, and that was the point of frustration, contention yesterday, because all of us are in agreement that we've got a foot in each world, and we're telling our boss, hey, you can tell us that on paper we are what you say you are, and that's how we should act. But the reality is we got a foot in each world, and we're going to pitch in because we're part of both teams, whether you believe it or not, based on what's on paper. But of course, and we're all making the same point differently, but I have a much younger person coming in with a point about like not wasting time at work and whatever. And I have an older person who's not saying it's not about wasting time. It's about making connections, right? Okay. and like and the younger person is not getting it, and I'm like, oh my god, like you don't understand. She's really old school, and old school is about making professional introductions. So you already went to this boring ass seminar, and we get it, but it's just bring this one to the next boring ass seminar, hand her off, right? And then leave. Don't stay for the boring ass seminar. So like it just was like, and I'm trying so hard to like communicate that, but it just kept getting flying over everyone's head. And I was like, oh my God. But oh my God, I have a point, and I do have one. But the point is that I find that, you know, people don't convey like the whole message. The woman who was trying to get her point across, I understood her perfectly, right? Then I tried to help, and it made nothing better, right? Like, look, they don't understand. Look, I translate between boomers
and Gen Z.
They don't understand. Exactly. That is exactly it. Exactly it. Eventually, everyone found common ground later, you know, and I felt bad because my younger colleague, she felt really dumb about the whole thing. She's like, oh my God. And I'm like, breathe. It's okay. But I have been circling this business long enough. Like, I get it. I know some people are like, no, we got to know that they have their footing. We got to know that they can do it. And you will find your support usually from other up and comers, right? So I have a couple artist friends, and because I have people who are up and coming in promotion, they have these younger, newer talents, and they're really pushing them because they're all kind of starting out in their arena. But we're not all that lucky, right? Like, these guys are all in the Northeast. They're all 4 hours away from each other, but they still found each other, and they still make it work being 4 hours away from each other. So I don't even know. That was it. My 20 cents, everybody. I'm so sorry. All right. Characters and theme. How did you develop these protagonists? You know, especially the detectives and the women. Like did it just come from I mean, obviously your love of Hollywood, right? The old Hollywood and that Hollywood glamour. But like, were there specific stories that drew you to creating these characters?
Specific stories, not particularly, to be honest with you. It was, I guess we're subconsciously inspired by a lot of different things, whether we know it or not. I would say for these stories, though, I did pull inspiration, at least specifically for the overall story, for some of the, you mentioned some of the themes. There was, I mean, obviously one of my favorite shows is True Detective. So the first season, and I pulled a lot from that. But there essentially was, for me, a lot of it just came from a lot of real life stories, a lot of real life sort of concerns I have. So a lot of it came from, like, I think especially what you've seen with, you know, like even like some of this crazy scandals, like, you know, Epstein Island, Weinstein, all that stuff. Like even now the P. Diddy thing, it's like you would almost have to be called like a conspiracy theorist for just like a few years ago saying you think any of this stuff. And for me to really, I guess that's a concern of mine, because that's so like just gross. A lot of that behavior just so just nasty and just wrong in every, you know, possible way. It was something for me to really show in a responsible way, in a really non-exploitive way. And I want to make that clear. Like, you're never going to have like a really like a super inappropriate scene in like this series. It's not that. So
but the themes remain, right?
The themes remain, exactly. So like so it's been something where it's just like a lot of it's just going to be pulled from those real life scenarios, real life stories. And when it came to the actual characters, it was mostly just, to be honest with you, it mostly just came from me thinking about what could be an interesting character in this scenario. What could be a cool, like, you know, person to put in here. And to be honest, the audience or everybody that reads it will find out about that in issue 2 and on. In issue 1, I just focus on Detective Short, because for me, what I want to establish to the reader was, again, what I mentioned before, was the philosophy with the story, which is the characters come before everything. And so like there will be moments in the comic where I'll take time to just explore a character's backstory a little bit more, or have a little like character beat. And it may not be essential to the plot, but it is essential to understanding the character psychology and understanding why they're making some of the decisions they're making. And so from that, it just came down from, I don't know. I think it just came down from a really just curiosity in people, more or less. So it was just came from a curiosity of why would someone find themselves in this scenario, and trying to, forcing myself to be empathetic with people that maybe are not the easiest to be empathetic with. Being like, well, if I was in their shoes, what would I do? And I feel like a lot of storytellers, like I recommend that to a lot of storytellers, to be like aggressively empathetic with all your characters. Put yourself in their shoes, try to understand and critically think the reasoning behind it. And more so than anything, I think it's important that the audience or readers like understand the character. You don't have to agree with them, but you understand it. Like have you seen Silence of the Lambs?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So like Hannibal Lecter is a horrible, no good person. But you understand the thought process, you understand a little bit of his philosophy, you understand it, and understand is not equal agreed at all. So it was that part for me as a writer where I had to go, okay, I'm going to dive in quick, and we want to understand why they think this way, why it operates like this, why their mind operates like this. And for me, I think it's really interesting to explore, because to a degree, like Detective Short is probably the most, like the closest thing the series has to like a good guy. And he's he's a hero, but he's not perfect anyway. Like, and his future partner, Lawrence K, is the same way. But for me, a lot of people, I mean, you're a writer too, so I'm sure you've heard this concern. Like, people are concerned about people, like their characters being, especially protagonists, being likable. And
Yes.
I cannot give a what about a character being likable. I care about a character being interesting. If they're interesting and it's consistent with what the base of the character is, like you can't just make a character do something totally, out of left field and be, oh, that's interesting. But as long as it's interesting, in line with the character, that's great. I do not care if the character's likable. I care that they're interesting.
Well, here's the dangerous area, right? They have to be relatable.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you be aggressively, yeah.
Yeah, and like, because there are series that I love right now that I cannot convince anyone to pick up, because the lead character is not likable, and also on top of that, not relatable. You know, there's a book out now, and the lead character is like doomed not to really grow much as a person.
See, that's boring. Yeah.
And well, no, but it's part of the curse that they live with, right? And they're immortal and they can't really change, physically or mentally. So that's supposed to be the part that's interesting, right?
Okay.
And I find that it works, but it's made it very, very not well received by many people. But the people who get it, the people who get that, the people that get the chemistry is about this person who can't really change, even though they have a desire to, right? But they can't really change because they're just cursed to be the same person eternally, right? And, see, I'm being called out on it.
Well, so for me, I will push back a little bit on the relatable thing, just because, like, for instance, for a protagonist, and I was very intentional, like with Detective Short, he has to be relatable to a degree. You have to be on his side. So the first issue is essentially, I'm getting the reader on his side. And so far, I think it's from people that have read it, I think they've found him very engaging. On the relatable thing, though, I will push back in terms of, for some characters, like there's a lot of characters in comics I do not relate to at all. Like, just because of, I'm not not the same race, we don't have the same cultural backing or something. So it's like, but I read because I'm like, oh, this character's fat. The way he's doing this is fascinating. Like, even in movies, like there's a part like, was it Taxi Driver? Like Travis Bickle.
Yep.
I do not relate at all to that guy, like in like a million different ways. I think he's a great character. He's so fascinating to watch, and I love watching him. And it's like, God, Lee, what's going on behind his mind? Is like the whole question. But yeah, it's weird because you make a good point. There's such a line, like because like.
Well, the thing is, with Taxi Driver is people don't find him relatable, but they do like him, right? So like that's the thing, and that's a dangerous line that I'm playing with as my own writing and getting feedback from people. My characters have to be likable and or relatable. It's got to be one or the other or both for people to be invested. So like my first draft I thought was decent, but so both the highest end reader of my reading group and the lowest end reader of my reading group, where this person has a great amount of education and experience, and this person does not have much education and just picks up their weekly comics and calls it a day. But both of them replied to me, hey, why are these two dudes like even having an affair? And I was like, wow, shit. I need to address this, you know? And so of course, so what did I do? So for a book that I don't want to be very long, what did I do? I added 9 more freaking pages to give the backstory on their relationship, but now it works. So we cut back to the beginning of the relationship and the bond that is forged. Then we cut to a one-shot adventure for one of them, but it's occurring on the same day, right? And then the last is their evening encounter, you know? And so now there's like a whole arc. I don't know if it's going to be a 32-page comic or 96 pages, but I had to go back and address the issue that from here to here, it's like if 6 people read it and everyone came back with, why are these 2 dudes together?
Right.
All right, one more question, and then we'll get to the spots. So I'm gonna end with, what do you hope readers take away from City of Demons emotionally and culturally? What do you hope they take away?
I think what I hope they take away is the sense, like I mentioned that the central theme is grief, but a lot of that is hopefully at the end is, and this is unique, I guess, for most noir stories, a little bit more of optimistic sort of theme of like perseverance through all that. So it's kind of like overall, again, the first chapter is Detective Short. You're learning about a lot of his emotional baggage that he carries with him. And as the story progresses, he'll cope with that. He'll fight through that. Same as like a lot of the other characters. And what I hope is that they'll find in old characters, an element that they can relate to, even if the character is like a bad person. And so I hope that they're able to just continue along with the mystery, but more so than the mystery. I hope they have fun with the mystery, but I hope that they really connect to the characters and that they really have a fun time exploring these characters in really unique scenarios. And I hope that, to be honest, it almost like showcases that a lot of the evil that, like specifically we talked about the evils in Hollywood historically, but a lot of that evil, it's not just Hollywood we see out there, that there's sort of an awareness to not accept that as okay. Awareness to be like, hey, just because it's been going on forever, that's not good. That's not something we should ever accept or be okay with. And also another thing, because I did not think it's going to be an issue. Multiple people did not get that City of Demons was a metaphor, the name. So they said that demons. There was one guy who I sent review copies to, and he said, and this is funny, he was trying to make it part of like the culture war thing, and it's just odd. Mm-hmm. That's not what this is for. And then he said the second issue, he's like, well, I'm 2 issues in, there's no demons. I don't know about this. And for anyone listening, the name is a metaphor that it's obviously a play on the name Los Angeles City of Angels. It also refers to a lot of the personal demons each character is carrying with them, and a lot of the sort of like crazy culture and behavior that's going on in Hollywood at that time. And so I feel like I have to clarify that because typically, surprisingly to me, that had not been clear to some people. They thought it was like going to be actual demons, but yeah.
Right. And it's just like, hey, demons is a metaphor for corruption, moral decay, gross ambition.
Yep.
Right? Like, just clarifying so you know where we're at.
Yeah. When I made the name, I never even thought it could be like that. And then I saw it later. I was like, oh, was this a mistake to make the name this? I was like,
no, because no. And remember, and you know what? Make the product you want to see. Make the product you want to see. That's the important thing. That is the very important thing. But anyhow, I thank you for that. So we're going to quickly start swooping into our segments. Let's begin with the comic of the week. Since you're our guest, I'm going to put you on the spot and make you big.
Awesome. Sweet. So I was going to say, so the comic of the week, I will admit, I did not get a weekly comic book issue this week. So feel free to make fun of me in the chat. But I would say I picked up, and this has actually been out for a while, but I picked up from actually DC's sort of new Black Label, the Batman the Imposter. The story is, it's a mystery where essentially a person dressed up as Batman is framing Batman for murders of various criminals and whatnot. And it's actually written by, as I researched, an uncredited writer of the Batman movie from what was that, 2018? I think it was that movie released, or when was that?
No, I think it was 2022.
2022, okay. Yeah, it's felt like forever since that movie came out. And
I know for a movie that's so desperately. Yeah, it was 2022. Yeah. I actually remembered. Good on me.
So yeah, and the art. So the story itself, I'm not gonna lie, it's good. The mystery itself is not horribly that complex, but the selling point is the amazing art. These art and the coloring from it. There's one splash page, like. It's the color palette's amazing. Like there's this one, like a lot of this art right here. Just that kind of, it looks like ink has been like splotted on it, but in a very direct way. It's incredibly moody, feels really gritty. So the art was the amazing sell point. I've even, not going to lie, have probably going to steal some of the panel layouts for some of the issues. But yeah, it's really, really a fun read. It's a quick read. It's not that long. So I definitely recommend checking it out.
Excellent. I like your choice. And normally I don't jump on a Batman bandwagon too quickly, but you brought good selling points to the table. Mine is going to be way more traditional. I'm going with Action Comics 1087, which brings us to Mark Waid's run on the book, where he introduces us to young Superman, young Clark Kent as Superboy. So if you had read the Superman special, then you already know. And then, of course, we get into, the typical Smallville antics. Clark trying to find himself. Clark goes to a space museum. What does it mean? What's it like being an alien? What's that all about? Being picked on, the first time he actually tries to do something heroic in public, which of course is kind of cute. But I mean, I really like it. It's like, I'm happy with the art. I'm happy with the story. I don't know if I love the take on what Clark's outfit should look like for teenage Superboy, but she's doing a great job. But yeah, I really liked it. It was fun. But of course, I am a Superman fan, so the bias is there. But Mark Waid has really been delivering.
What a perfect match for Superman, by the way. Yeah, perfect match.
So good. Such a nice balance. And now do I even have it in me for the next one? All right, moving on to our Bussy Busters. I'll go first this time because I don't think I pulled this out last night accidentally, and I don't think I brought this up enough. But it's Miracle Man 15.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And this is the only reprint of this book, right?
Whoa.
Like maybe you can find the old trade, but it's either you find Miracle Man 15, the original, or you find this reprint. I found this reprint, and it was a search, mind you, and I snatched it up so fast. And when they say this is one of the most violent comics in history, no one is wrong about that. It's right up there. This is invincible levels of bloodshed and emotional like escalation and everything. It is just it is quite the read. It is quite the read. But I was so happy to finally get this. And even if it is to reprint, I don't care. It's just so hard to find this book. So that's my Bussy Buster today. Oh my goodness. You're like, how do I follow that?
I don't think I can follow that. Yeah, I was about Lord.
You can follow anything, you know?
Oh yeah, Lord.
Maybe a book full of bloodshed should not have been the right answer for Bussy Buster, but still, I'm just so happy to have it.
Oh my gosh, the closest thing. This is actually a friend got it for me. Lord, this is heavy. So one of my close friends who loves comics like I do has started getting me a lot more into a lot of the manga stuff. So he got me, and I did not know it was going to be this, a humongous collection. Like I think it's the first one of Vinland Saga.
Oh wow!
And if you've ever seen the anime is pretty much a great. It's a really faithful adaptation. Like it's shot for shot, beautiful. I saw the anime actually as I was watching along with it, or as I was reading along with it, and I almost imagine a lot of these scenes with the added music. The soundtrack's amazing. This extremely similar to yours, extremely violent. Not to Miracle Man levels though. Miracle Man, no, Miracle Man's like another. I love it, but yeah. So, but this one is great. It's a lot of the. It's just very. This one will kind of when you fully embrace the actual reality of it, will kind of mess you up emotionally because it's a little kid that completely loses his innocence early on and just foolishly dives head on to a long journey of revenge, which typically for me, I don't find that interesting. I don't think revenge stories are like some of them are great, but typically it goes back to revenge is bad.
Yeah. But what's interesting here is like this is a revenge story, but it's so much more, right? Because he still has to grow as a person. And this comes back to what we're talking about earlier. How do you make it interesting? Right. You know? And like that's what makes it interesting. He actually still is growing as a person in the process.
Well, and also and then again, another weird foil is that the guy who killed his father, he ends up having a pseudo surrogate father relationship with that guy.
Yeah.
And spoiler alerts, but when that guy dies, he has this, sort of spiritual crisis because he's like, his whole mission was to kill this man. And he's like, wait, I think I actually loved him. And like as a father, and it's like, whoa, it just messes with him, with this whole psychology. And it's great. It's so like, and also if you're a history guy like me, and it's like the Viking history that they pull from is really fascinating. Yeah. I can't talk about the art's great. Can't talk about it enough.
Yeah, no, it's just amazing the way they incorporate history. Leif Erikson, so much stuff going on, so much stuff. And it's Makoto Yukimura who created this, and like he was like inspired by the story of the King of Norway, right? Like just like it's amazing how like we can inspire each other cross culturally and everything. And it's a great series. If you're not into reading mangas, at least go check out the anime. It's really good, and it's even on Netflix.
Yeah, it is. And I was about to say another great part is that say the author's name again. I feel like I want to mispronounce them.
Makoto Yukimura.
Yukimura, yes. He was a big sci-fi guy. So for him to even go into this direction of doing like historical epic is so like bizarre and cool. I really love it when an author shows like versatility. But I love that kind of stuff.
And everyone who watches my show knows what a fan I am of versatility. Good morning. Where'd you get that? And good morning, John. Good morning, J-Man. How are you? Madam is here. Madam, I didn't get to finish you and Fanboy Prime, but I hope you won, girl. I hope you won. I tried to jump in there, but it was a hectic morning. All right. Now for the deep dive of the morning. It's time for Rate It or Hate It. Today's Rate It or Hate It is brought to us once again by the Cover Price Retrospective. Today, I believe it's a 1-year review. Let me verify. Oh, it's a 2-year review. This was the Cover Price Top 10 2 years ago for June 2023. Oh, man, that is sad. All right, June 2023 was a little hard for me, but okay. It's a retrospective. First up, this is kind of funny. Obviously, Spider-Verse was on everyone's mind. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So we get the spot with the Spectacular Spider-Man number 99. Sir, you know how this plays. You decide if we rate it or hate it. And the system for rating is 1 to 5. 1 being like, sure, there's somebody out there for this. And 5 being like, this is a total must-have for anyone's collection.
You said 2 is like, oh, there's someone out there for this?
Yeah, 1 and 2 is like, there's someone out there for us. Or like 2 is like, 1 is like, okay, there's someone out there for this. 2 is like, okay, there's like a cult following for this. You know, 3 is average. 4 is like, I definitely want this. And 5 is like, everybody should have this.
I was about to say, I'm not typically, this may be bad. I'm not typically a big fan historically of the Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man series. It's super hit and miss. Almost even more so than amazing. But I'm going to get.
Oh no, amazing is going through a crisis, so that's different. That's
amazing.
We have to acknowledge what that is.
Yeah, I don't know if that series will ever. That's a whole nother discussion. I'll get into it. But for this, I'll give this actually probably. I may just give this I'll give him this a 5 because he's going to be the villain in the next movie. Also, I think that the spot, a lot of people just found out about him and thought his power set was really, really cool. And to find out the history in this issue, I think it's going to be, I would buy it. Like, I think it's really, I think he's a really cool villain.
I think he's a great villain. I'm tempted to go 5, but I'm really going to go 4 because I know I really want it. I just don't know if everybody will want this. You know, so I'm just gonna play it just gently safe. But look at Marcus agreeing, absolute 5.
I just feel like the movies are so popular, and again, he's gonna be the next one. I feel like I want to see as much of the spot as I can.
He's definitely gonna have a resurgence because he's already showing up in Ultimate Invasion.
Yeah.
No surprise here that it's Spectacular Spider-Man number 98. You know. With the spot being a huge hit, this is his first cameo being in demand. A 5, I mean, because this book is down. It's true. Get it while it's down. Get it while it's down. Spectacular Spider-Man 98, rated or hated.
I honestly do not know a whole lot about this one. You said this is like the Spot's first cameo, you said?
Yeah, it's his first cameo. But also, I do like how the Kingpin plays a role in nudging these two apart because, you know, Felicia ends up owing the Kingpin, you know, a couple times. And so this is part of that. I do not remember specifically if this is when he restored her or gave her Black Cat Jinx power.
Okay.
Right? But that was definitely a part of it. That was definitely one time she went to Kingpin and was like, all right, let's make a deal because I want to have my Jinx ability back.
Honestly, I really like Kingpin. I feel like, again, there's been a little bit of a surge. Not as much of a surge I thought back in popularity because of the Born Again show. Black Black Cat's routinely popular, but I've never felt like she's super popular. I don't know. Maybe I'm just in terms of like. Let's go.
I feel like every comic book collector that appreciates a set of boobs knows who Black Cat is.
That's a good point. I'm gonna give this. I don't know. I'm thinking through it more. I'm gonna give this a 4. Actually, I think again the Spot's cameo. I think pushing them apart because again she is an essential part of Spider-Man lore. So I think this moment for any collector's big moment. So yeah, I'll give it a 4. Maybe I should give it a 5.
I mean, I don't know about. Yeah. I'm going to give it a 4 because again, I like this, and this is actually a storyline I remember enjoying.
Okay.
Right. So so when people are like, "Oh, what are some of your favorite stories?" This doesn't pop into mind, but it does. You know, like when I'm looking at it, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I remember this. I remember it fondly." So I'm going with a 4 for the fond memories and the quality. All right, next up, still under the influence of Spider-Verse, it's Spider-Gwen #1. I don't feel like she needs an introduction.
No. So I think we're both in agreement 5, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, not at 5 because I love Spider-Gwen, but also, like Marcus says, the book is down and will be up again. Grab it while it's down. Grab it.
I remember when they first announced like Spider-Gwen variant, and that was shown. I was kind of like, what? Like, for my initial reaction was like, sure, okay. And then I actually was reading it. I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. I actually think this is like a really interesting take. So this is one of the few characters that actually surprised me because I was ready to not like it. And yeah.
I'm with you, but my heart was warmed over.
Yeah. Where'd you get?
Oh, Madam did win. Yes, Kara. Yes. Yes, I love that. I love it. And Rich, good morning. You too, Kyle. You have a great day. All right. Next up, still the heart of Across the Spider-Verse, Ultimate Fallout 4, Miles Morales. Do we even have to have a discussion? It's a 5. You know, buy it while it's cheaper. How do you not love Miles? I don't even understand. It's a 5. I'm not even going to let you rate it or hate it. I'm just telling you, we're doing it, and it's a 5.
I will say this about Miles Morales in the comics when they first brought him on, and I want to hear your opinion. I think the movies, the Spider-Verse movies, improved on the character of Miles, at least from his initial introduction in the Ultimate Comics, because my little critique of Miles was that he was too similar to Peter in terms of personality, in terms of like just interest. Like I think the Spider-Verse given him like an artistic interest, like the graffiti art, and then even the comics brought on a lot of the music stuff. I think makes him stand apart from Peter. I think as a personality, when I first was reading, like he's too. I want something different than Peter. If you're going to do a new Spider-Man, I thought he was initially too similar.
In the meantime, I thought he was different enough. Like I was caught up in the fact about the spider that bit him, that his uncle was the Prowler. Right. You know, he came from a biracial home, which is something I clearly identify with. And see, this is the thing, right? I identify with that, and now as quickly I was lured in by that, right? So this is about like how to bring in that interest in the character, right? So like I was digging it, and obviously Miles evolved more and more and more in the comic, even before the movies. I think the fact that he has an artistic and musical streak showed up before we got the first movie. I think Miles had evolved enough that we got to all those points, and then the movie brightened those points and went to those points. It wasn't like the movie didn't say, "Oh, let's do that." Didn't say, "Let's evolve." It just was like, "Okay, these are things we know we love about this character, and we're gonna make them shine."
Right. It was just for me, like I don't know. When I first was reading it, was like, "Oh, he's just a really smart kid. Like he loves science." I was like, "Oh no!" It's like I've seen this before, and it was like, but yeah, no, I liked him enough when I first was reading Ultimate Spider-Man, and then now I've grown to just love him. I think he's great. So yeah,
he's one of my favorite things.
Yeah.
All right, another breakout character from the Spider-Verse, from 2014's Amazing Spider-Man number 10, the first appearance of Spider-Punk.
I forgot about Spider-Punk.
How can you forget about Spider-Punk?
And is this again superior? Is this the run where it was like Doc Ock, right? It was like control, was the mind?
Yes.
Okay. I actually somewhat enjoyed this. Actually, a lot of people initially hated it, and I did too. Like how the transition happened.
The transition part does not age well ever.
Oh, it sucks. But I think a lot of people have mixed feelings on it. Let's give it.
It's still the first Spider-Punk. At the end of the day, it's still first Spider-Punk.
Oh, 5. I love Spider-Punk. Yeah.
There we go. That's the right answer. 5 it is. I love Spider-Punk too. That's how you do it, folks. That's how you do it. Even with my coercion.
Even with my mixed feelings on that whole run, I see how 5.
Yeah, it's like it's we're gonna do 5. We're gonna do the 5. Right. Oh my god! And you know what? You can still get pretty affordable copies out there, even slabbed. All right, next up, we're gonna diverge, but it's not gonna be too surprising, to Marvel 1986 G.I. Joe and Transformers number 1. Oh. Obviously,
5.
Hot.
5.
Yeah. Oh, 5. There we go. 5s. Yeah.
No, I love this. I love the whole. I want to see this in a movie, and apparently they're may do a crossover, and I can't wait. And so, this is like me. Like, if I just put my 8-year-old brain in, I'm like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, do it. Yeah, 5 immediately.
I can't disagree. Obviously, the heat from this came from Transformers and G.I. Joe going to Image Skybound.
Oh. And
voila. And you know what? Again, it's low. Buy it low. Do it now.
Yeah, I can't believe how low it is. This is great. I'm probably going to buy this. This is awesome.
5. Got it right off the rack. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
All right. The next one. Nostalgia bait, but understood. Marvel 1992. X-Men Adventures number 1.
Oh, that's so good. That has to be a 5. I don't know what else. Could it not be a 5? You have essentially the same team that was shown off the animated show.
Yeah. And all that Jim Lee inspiration.
Yeah, I was about to say now a little. Yeah, so I love Gambit. He's my personal favorite X-Men. If I'm being honest, like I will still always cry that Channing Tatum never got his Gambit movie.
But yeah, he's gonna be Gambit again. So here we go. It's happening slowly.
Is that confirmed? He'll be.
Remember when they did that long ass video with the chairs of who's gonna be in the Tuesday?
Totally. Yeah.
So Gambit will live.
Sweet. Yeah.
All right, I agree with you. 5 all the way.
This is yeah.
The next one we may have a problem. Spider-Man number 7, the Humberto Ramos spoiler variant, Marvel 2023, June of 2023, but it's the first appearance and cover of Spider-Boy.
I'm not a big Spider-Boy fan.
I knew we were going to have a problem.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, I don't know. It's... I'm trying to think from a perspective of like collecting this. Okay, so as a fan, I would not do this at all. I would be like, so for me, it'd be like a 1. For most other people, if you're serious about collecting this, it would have to be a 4 or 5. So I'll be objectively, it's a 4 or 5. Personally, I'm like, I'll walk past it and just keep on going. I want to see Jeff the Shark attack Spider-Boy. Yeah, see.
Listen, I'm going to be objective and call it a 4, even though my heart is screaming 5. You know? But the reason I'm objectively calling it a 4 is because I love him, and I know lots of people love him, and but yes, I have to acknowledge he's not going to be for everybody, so I can't give him the 5. But there you go, Spidey boy.
I'll have to reread it. I'll have to reread this. See if it was too harsh.
There's so many things about him that I love that just remind me of what I loved about young Peter Parker.
Gotcha.
Phil Noto variant 1 in 25, Star Wars 35. The dude that makes lightsaber stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to read the description because I already know what this is supposed to be, and I don't know if I care that much.
Well, I was going to be honest. Is the Marvel run? I mean, it's not a singular run, but is a lot of the Star Wars Marvel like the current sort of Star Wars stuff? Is it any good, or is it?
Some of it is pretty good, and it's supposed to be part of the real lore, but you know.
Do you think Disney actually cares about it though, like in terms of the actual canon?
I don't know what Disney cares about. All I know is that all the Star Wars Heat books, the Heat is like the week it comes out, and then it fizzles away, you know? And like clearly, as you could tell by this one, we were at $41 raw in June of 23, and now we're back. You could probably find it for $11, you know, because it's a 1 in 25, you know?
Yeah.
And $11 is low for a 1 in 25 even. So like, let's be real.
I'd say it's just a 2. I don't know. I just see the price point, and I've not heard much, and maybe I'm just out of touch with it, but I've not heard much fanfare going on around a lot of the newer Marvel comics with Marvel Star Wars comics. So do you think there's a big demand for this? I know like Star Wars still has a rabid fan base, but I feel like the brand overall is still going down. What do you think?
I don't know. Like, I don't feel like the demand is really there. That's why I'm always like so sour of it, you know?
Yeah. And I feel like it's bad now because the overall Star Wars brand, I think, has almost reached its lowest point in a while, just in terms of like actual interest. So I'm going to say, I know Star Wars still is a big fan base. I'm going to say 2, because there's definitely going to be someone who will find this interesting.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, exactly. I'm giving it a 2.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 2. You know, Dr. Von Hoot, DVH is here. DVH, you missed us giving 5s. We were giving 5s out, man. 5s for this. For this. So
Our community says that's the coolest thing I've ever. That covers the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
All right, we're back to number 1. Number 1 is all about the Spider-Verse love. Spidey 2099, number 1. Rated
5.
5, everybody. 5. You heard it here. 5s. If you don't own a copy, own a copy. Buy it. Buy it now. Buy it immediately. 5. I love it.
I would ask when Marvel did the whole 2099 thing, because it was like a bunch of other characters.
Yes.
Were they saying that this is the future of like the canon, or did they say this is a possible, like, did they even clarify that?
They always imply it as a possible future.
Yeah.
Right? They never overcommit. And then of course sometimes they're very acknowledging that it's like a different future. Like Guardians of the Galaxy clearly was a very different future because Vance Astrovic, Major Victory, is very different than Marvel Boy Vance Astrovic. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. But like still like worth noting. So yeah, they always imply it's a probable future. But then again, why is it all these people from these probable futures, whenever they time travel, they show up here? They show up in 616. How does it work?
Yeah, that was my question, where it's like, did they have that selling point when they first put out like, this is the future of Marvel, and like
you know what, I'm ashamed that I don't properly recall. You know, I think it was more like gaze into the future of Marvel, something like that, you know.
Sweet. I also like
clearly I need to go back and do a reread. Clearly reread of those books. The reread.
I also like the little thing that a lot of the diehard fans get mad is that Miguel O'Hara in the video games and movies he's been featured in, he has like it's blue with the red logo. Yes. And I think technically in the comic it's actually black, and the blue is supposed to be like highlights. Yes. But I think somewhere the communication got mixed up because
it just became blue. But let's be honest,
it looks better. Yeah.
It does look better. Let's be honest, it looks better because I've seen it in the all black and it is not the look.
No. Yeah.
All right. This is your last moment to shine, sir, as we enter our final segment, the 5-finger shuffle.
Sweet. So I really like stories where they essentially put their characters through hell, and you really see that character persevere and work their way back out of it. And I just love all the layers of storytelling like that. Like, again, even in movies like Rocky, the first Rocky is a perfect example. So the first example I'm going to bring up is Daredevil. Literally everything I just mentioned. Daredevil Born Again. When Frank was at in my opinion, his peak, I think this is actually his best story he's ever written. I think it's actually the best. I think it's the best arc Marvel has ever created. I think Daredevil Born Again, the really grounded street level story it tells, is really great. I read this at least twice a year, and you go from Matt Murdock just being completely destroyed, psychologically just broken by the Kingpin, to at the end just being, finding his love, Karen Page again, and its place in also Marvel history, and just in comics becoming more mature, be willing to explore more mature stories. I think is really, really cool. And also, I used to have the original single issues for this, but I have the first volume of Hellboy. And Hellboy is a similar deal where, he was born under really mysterious, horrible circumstances. But I just like the part that Hellboy as a character does not let that define him, to where he's still the master of his own destiny. And I think, like we talked about, sort of like what makes a character interesting and relatable. Like Hellboy's, a demon spawn, but still his character is what makes him relatable. The fact that, he's still wants to do good, even though people won't allow him to do good. It's just what I really love about the character. And I think the character's interpretations and stories actually gets better as Mike Mignola continues later on in the run. And
I have to agree. I agree. Yep. Great choice.
And you have possibly what a lot of people have said is the greatest run ever in Marvel. I still think Frank Miller's run and Daredevil is the best, but is Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run. Same deal. You have Hawkeye, who, is, and they do a great job of sort of showing the reality of a superhero that's, I think, on paper kind of silly. He's a archer, that is on the same team, Avengers, same team as gods like Thor and Hulk, and they do a great job showing sort of you grow in similar way to Batman. You grow a great admiration that it's a man, no superpowers, just a man fighting against something that's always greater than himself. And the relationship he builds with Kate Bishop,
that's one of my favorite little father-daughter relationships.
Yeah, it's so good. They so Kate Bishop, again, there's a lot of characters, not a lot, but there's a few characters when they're introduced, I was uncertain about them. Like Spider-Gwen, for instance, we mentioned. Kate Bishop was another one. I was like, I don't know if this works for me. And as I read, I was like, this is perfect. I think this is great. And what she brings out of Hawkeye is amazing. The fact, the art, I have to show, there's an issue where it's just a dog that it's shown from their dog, and it's amazing because it's shown from a dog's perspective, and so it sounds silly. I know it's amazing. It's like one of the best issues of a comic I've ever read, and so definitely check it out. The art is really moody. They had the same artist and colorist from do some of the issues from Batman Black Mirror, which has some of the greatest, moodiest. I love the art in that. And we're back with another manga. I don't want to say his name because I feel like I'm going to butcher it. But we have the guy who did Slam Dunk. It's another Vagabond. And this is actually the third volume. And if you ever want a series that talks about improving yourself, persevering through challenges and pain, this is it. It focuses on a guy named Tekizo, who later changed his name to Miyamoto Musashi, who is a real-life historical figure, a real-life Ronin. And he thinks that the only purpose for his life is to be like a killing machine, and then that broadens and he realizes that there's more to him, and so it really examines masculinity in a really productive way, which I think is really important at this day and age.
Yeah.
I love the internet culture.
We do not have enough of that at all, let's be sure.
It's a really healthy depiction of that, which a lot of people like are just not going to get into it. But yeah, so this is really healthy. The art is amazing. Later on the run, the writer switches to inking with brushstrokes, and so it just gets even better. The art is beautiful. The characters are amazing. And it's one of these series similar to Vinland where you do not have to like anime or a lot of manga to like this. Like this is very accessible. And it has some of the best, like if you really want to dissect like great page layouts and storytelling for comics, look at Vagabond. And as my last one, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I know I already mentioned it. And say Vinland Saga again. So same deal, work through pain. And then later on the run, I didn't talk about, but later on the run, there's a farm arc, which was season 2 of the anime. And that is all about improving. And it's a very healthy masculine image that it shows. Again, we do not have enough of those. So like
is that when what's his name gives him the farm? Or he gives him the farm at the end. I can't remember.
So he's taken in as a slave because he tried to kill, and then what happened? Yeah, so he's never given a farm, but essentially the deal is made is that if he can farm on this plot of land, and produce all sorts of crops or whatever, there's a deal that then he can go free. And so, but through that,
I'm gonna have to rewatch it. I'm so misremembering.
Yeah, so but essentially his master tells him that, or his owner tells him that he's like, if you work on this land, like he gives him a pathway to freedom, and which is nice. At the same time, you're also a slave owner. So but but it's a really impactful series. I think it's, again, the character work in it I think is amazing. Even the quote unquote bad guy in the first part of the story is really complex, and you end up liking him to a degree, even though he's a horrible person. So great character work, great art, great story. Like, again, if you've seen the anime, you already know how great it is. So definitely check all those out. Yeah.
Excellent. I agree, because anyhow, as much as I'm misremembering it, I recall enjoying the anime. So that's terrible. Oh my God. Well, Parker, I want to thank you again for being here. This is a great morning of Comics and Coffee. The links are in the chat. The links are in the description. So make sure you go to that Zoop campaign, go contribute. Hey, we're only roughly $1,300 away. He's got 26 days. Let's go.
Yeah.
Look at that. You're already at 764. We went from 707. We went to 764 in the time that we're here.
Yeah, guys, please share it with anyone you think that may be interested. This has been a passion project for years. I think you'll really enjoy it. Like I say that confidently. Yeah, so we need some more support, more independent comics. Soup is a great place to do it. And I think the best stories like that Cliff is telling and that anyone else is telling in the independent field, the best stories are through indie comics. So let's just support that, and let's support great storytelling.
Absolutely. Thank you again, everyone. Try to have a great day. My day is full of rain, so I'm going to make the most of it. Everyone take care. Next week is Heroes Con. Who knows what I'm doing? I don't know. Will it be videos? Will it be live streams? Will it be random breakfasts with couple community members? I have no clue. So until then, everybody, peace, love, take care. As Christina Payne says, spread the love. Peace.